Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the Duval Dive. Of course, I am Kyle Nash, the student of the game.
And I'm Travis Holmes with BigCatCountry.com.
And you're listening to this thing here on the Believe Podcast Network. Travis, very festive. Your awesome T-shirt there reminded me that we should be the very last out there wishing the Duval Devout a Merry Christmas if you celebrate. And among the first to start talking Happy New Year here as we get in here on this post-Christmas edition of the Duval Dive. And Travis, listen, right out of the gate, I feel like Liam Cohen has been giving gifts to this fan base in such a fashion. We discussed it at length here on Tuesday about the turnaround such that it is. But the next stumbling block in the mix is, of course, I'm not going to say it's like there's hate, but it's not hate. I feel like there is with the Texans and the Titans, but still a rival team in the Indianapolis Colts this weekend on the road out there at Lucas Oil. And I'll say this, it's that feeling where the Jags have a string of losses. If you look at, what is it? We'll call it the past 10 years or so over there at Indianapolis. But this team lately has been different when they go on the road to the Colts.
This team has been different, right? I think that's a fair assessment. This team's been different on the road. This team's been different in Jacksonville. But overall, you're not wrong to say the rivalry matters. The fact that these teams and all the teams in this conference don't like each other matters, and they know each other the most intimately. That can be just like a lot of the other divisional games across the NFL. Sometimes it's all about getting the W, no matter how you get it, no matter if it's by 1 point or if it's by 30 points, because these teams generally just play each other better.
Yeah, we if we had one fewer hate in our player haters meme here that we use for oftentimes with our rivalries, I think that would better describe the Colts. It's I don't want to say it's respect, but it's more respect. Now, that being said, I know you recently here on the Duval Dive mentioned IR for Jordan Lewis. That will actually be a factor as well. This DB core is still plenty deep, but certainly not something you'd like to see, happen in that particular scenario as well. Reyes in the comments, Lewis going down sucks, but at least we know Jarian is ready. Hope you both had a great Christmas. You as well, Reyes. Anyways, thoughts on that, sir? That you would add to the context.
Yeah, like we said on the Duval Dive on Christmas Day, breaking news, quick Duval Dive hit. The Jaguars, cornerback Jordan Lewis is put on IR for his foot injury after getting his foot stepped on with just minutes left in the Denver Broncos game, which is just crazy. Timing, crazy way it happened just across the board. Then the team also later announced that they placed him on IR, confirming those reports, and they also signed cornerback Keith Richards, who most recently played with the Atlanta Falcons for 2 games this year. A little bit of special teams ability there, so at least that gives you something. And then you have a few big injuries across both teams that you kind of want to get into because they're going to be huge this week. So let's mind getting into that.
I was hoping you would transition to that. Now he's asking permission. It is the holiday season. We're both giving. It's great.
Nah, man, I got you. So the Jaguars practice, on Wednesday and Thursday. They did not participate for right guard Patrick McCarry with his back injury that made him leave last week's game, and they also had Robert Hainsey not practicing on both Wednesday and Thursday, which was curious because you don't really want your right guard and center to be either limited or missing the game. That's a lot of interior pressure or potential issues. That's normally something that can cause some issues in both the run game and the pass game. Danny Strigo, the defensive end, was Wednesday, did not participate, but then he was limited on Thursday with his ankle injury that forced him to miss week 16. Now, like I said, that's a pretty alarming combination of injuries when you're playing against a team that's kind of known for having a guy named DeForest Buckner and Grover Stewart. That's a big thing. But also, if they can't go, like if McCarry is not able to go and Hainsey's not able to go, then at least the team would have an option with Chuma Edoga because he was inactive last week, or Walker Little, who filled in last week, or they have the Wyatt Milam option also. So they actually have 3 guys instead of just the 2 that we've seen most recently. But Wyatt Milam actually had experience back in the Tennessee Titans game when
Right.
Patrick McCarry had a concussion because they placed him at right guard then too. So again, they got guys who can play all these spots and kind of rotationally. So we'll just kind of see where it lands on this Friday injury report. I mean, they're literally on the practice field practicing this morning, so
Right.
I just have that information just yet. Uh, and on the Colts side of things, this is weird. I'm gonna be real. I wanted your thoughts on this. Like, so the Colts played on Monday night against the 49ers. Then so they have a short week. But Jacksonville chose to practice on Christmas Day in the afternoon, whereas the Colts already on a short week and playing on Monday night, and they had Tuesday off, and then they did a walkthrough on Wednesday, and then they took Thursday off for Christmas. And I'm like, wait, so it's Friday morning, and y'all haven't had one real practice this week, but it's also with a new quarterback who just recently came in and learning the system and trying to figure out those differences and everything else. I'm like, all right, this is a philosophy thing, and Liam Cohen talked about it in his presser this morning. So I'm just curious to be your thoughts. They played Indianapolis a few weeks ago, and they probably feel like that extra day of rest for their players is kind of more beneficial than the extra day of work. And it's an opponent that they probably believe that they know very well. They were just in a 14-7 game against the Colts. The Colts were in a 14-7 game against the Jaguars just a few weeks ago when their quarterback got hurt. So they probably think, hey, no, we understand who this team is. Our guys just need to get healthy after this late week. But do you feel like they probably should have given that extra day of practice? It's just a weird philosophy thing, and I'm kind of just curious. I don't know how to feel about it, not practicing, not being in the classroom in that way at this late in the week, and with a really big game for the Colts.
Yeah, and there's a lot of questions to be asked there. I think there's two other things to consider. For one, when your quarterback has a family of, what is it, 10 kids? Of course he's taking Christmas off. So that's I joke, but also, is that a factor? You would have to ask the question, right? And I think the other piece is too, them just getting some pieces back. I think the injury bug may be a little bit more paranoid on their mind. As somebody who covers the Orlando Magic, and with health being a whole, shall we say, roaming specter of danger, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
I think keeping guys healthy and not losing them to practice is a factor. But then again, do you come out and just pad up for an hour just to make sure y'all still are fresh enough? There's a whole lot going on there. And listen, let's be honest. We could talk about Phillip Rivers all day. He's getting all the headlines. For me, your offense still runs through Jonathan Taylor first. And this is, and I think this is what reigns supreme in addition to the umpteen, however many million kids that Phillip Rivers has, the umpteen, however many million carries Jonathan Taylor has taken and will take to close out the season. I think rest is more important than practice at this point as well. A lot of what you're going to change and do against the Jags to attack them is going to happen more in the classroom than on the field, in my opinion. And a lot of that walkthrough will probably be done today anyway, right? So I think that element of keeping Jonathan Taylor fresh is big. I joke, but maybe again, Phillip Rivers' family's a factor. That's just kind of what I said. It's a great philosophy.
It's a weird situation. Yeah, it's a weird situation that you don't generally see in the NFL. So I'm just curious with this weird wonky week, we'll call it. But I mean, since they haven't practiced this week, the Colts their current injury report as it stands today, Friday morning, is all an estimation provided by the team. So like on Wednesday and Thursday, their starting center, Taylor Borlini, has a concussion, so did not participate. Their right guard, Dalton Tucker, has a shoulder injury, didn't participate either day. DeForest Buckner, who was just activated from IR last week, is not for his neck injury, but hasn't practiced due to that same neck injury that he was on IR for. And Sauce Gardner, to date, has not practiced with his calf injury. Now, those are all pretty big injuries again, and we already talked about, Buckner's return in San Francisco. And they're talking about potentially having Sauce Gardner back. I mean, Coach Shane Steichen on Wednesday said that he was hopeful that Sauce could go against the Jaguars and basically what's a must-win game for the Colts. So that's two all-pro players who potentially might be back, and that's a slight difference from the Colts last time they faced Jacksonville just a few weeks ago. But I also thought it was real interesting that both teams starting center and right guard as of this morning have not practiced.
Yeah.
That's the biggest injury consideration I can probably name overall. Is if one of those guys or two of those guys on either team don't play, that massively changes how this game could work, because interior pressure is a big deal for any offense.
Well, and let me see. Are we ready to pull the keys to the game up here? I didn't
Let's
know.
do it, bro.
Yeah. Okay. Right on. Because I mean, I wanna be able to flex my creative muscle here and get that going. But yeah, I mean, you mentioned keeping 16 clean. Obviously, the shall we say O-line concerns are there. But
Yeah.
you compare the two teams, and this is something I'm coming up with right now because I didn't see the full injury report as you just dropped it here, like you do on the dive there, Travis D. Holmes. But I'm wondering if that gives an advantage to the Jags because they have better depth and rotation. Is this going to be another Jimmy Stone's win for the Jags? You know what I mean?
That's fair. It's a great question. I mean, it's a week by week league and it's a matchup by matchup scenario. So the fact that the Jaguars do have significant depth at the offensive line, it will be helpful. But you just never know how these guys are going to play, because again, like might have a guy that you've seen play dominant in a dominant fashion against speed, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait, why does he look so bad? Because he's struggling against power, or vice versa. You just don't know how those things are going to go until you see these guys pass these tests. In addition, getting back to DeForest Buckner does not mean DeForest Buckner's 100%. That's the other part
Correct.
about looking at that tape.
I think that's more true to Sauce than Buckner, but go ahead.
No. I'm just saying, like, it's different because having a potentially injured or backup right guard and right tackle, and guard and center, obviously both teams should be concerned with interior pressure in the pass protection and more importantly in the run game. But of the 63 snaps with the 49ers starting offense on the field last week, DeForest Buckner played 44. 70% snap rate. That's not bad, considering he just returned from IR after missing a month. But in his return, he had 5 tackles, 3 solo, no sacks. It really wasn't a blowing box score, but we're not box score watchers. I actually got to look at the tape and figure it out. And the Colts defense had just 1 quarterback hit all game. That was Leatu Latu's sack, and they had 8 pressures against the 49ers, despite Brock Purdy having an average time to throw of 3.31 seconds. We've talked so much about time to throw in this podcast. I would hope by now you guys understand why that's an important number. But the gist of it is, generally speaking, you have a certain amount of time what most defenses take to get to the quarterback, and you have a normal amount of time what most quarterbacks like to get the ball out. And normally, week by week, it's going to match up where if they are slower in their release and you're faster on your pass rush, generally speaking, your math's going to work out. You're going to get more sacks that week, if that makes sense. Brock Purdy had a very slow time to throw. The Colts defense still could not sniff him for much of the game.
Right.
Now, DeForest Buckner was often doubled and often even sometimes tripled, and he still got 3 of those 8 pressures himself. So he wasn't fully his normal self. But as far as the Colts pass rush is concerned, it was Buckner and then Leatu Latu and kind of nobody else. That's kind of what it felt like.
And I think that's just the Colts way of life right now, unfortunately, too. And then I would also factor in they're trying to account for Christian McCaffrey, a guy you say and have said on this podcast that should be getting potential MVP consideration, for what's going on there with the 49ers. You mentioned that time to throw. Why is that significant? Well, here's another stat that you box score watchers out there who listen to us might have seen. He threw 5 touchdowns, for God's sake. Right. So where I'm at is part of the reason why Brock may have had more time to throw. Hey, if I'm playing the Niners, I'm daring Brock to throw this ball. You know how that sounds familiar? What the Broncos did to Trevor Wright. I dare you, Trevor. And I really think that is a blueprint for what they're going into in this game. And the further evidence that might happen, Travis, is the fact they haven't practiced. Hey, y'all, we're going to try to stop somebody else in the run game and dare Trevor to beat us because we still don't believe him because we aren't paying enough attention.
That's fair. No, but that's fair. Now, my own, again, a big concern. Wyatt Mullen played really well in his, in last week's game against the Broncos in reserve. Like, I'm willing to say that. But just looking at the tape from last week, like you just look at these are the main pressures from the game. The vast majority of the pressure against the Denver Broncos, like we talked about on Wednesday's Duval dive, came from the interior of the defensive line. Whether it was Patrick McCarry, whether it was Robert Hainsey before his injury, across the board, interior pressure can be a game plan record. So that's where my biggest concern, that's kind of where my first concern lies, especially when you've been considered the injuries that the Jacksonville Jaguars offense has there. So that's kind of we're looking at DeForest Buckner again, not necessarily being 100%, but also being their primary source of pass rush potential. That's kind of why I'm looking at. Like again, I didn't think Wyatt Milan played badly. He did get beat on, I believe it was like 3 different times where I was like, it's not what you necessarily want to see. And a lot of these guys, again, no one had a clean game in that way. But for the most part, the primary source of the pressure was in the interior game.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of good takes there with that. I would add this element too, Travis, just for full disclosure and fairness. Good God, it was.
Oh, that was the one. I'm sorry. I said this on Wednesday that there was one play where Walker Little didn't touch anybody. And I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to show you that was the play I was referencing.
What they called it out.
And he doesn't touch the guy at all. And I'm like, I don't understand what happened with the protection.
Okay, so that was a bad read. Keep cycling through it if you don't mind. I'll kind of explain what I see here too as the O lineman on the show. For some reason, and I don't know what Walker Little saw, but you're okay. So remember, it's head up, inside, outside, right? As you see, he goes outside. I don't know why he didn't engage 9-3. I don't know if he was expecting Hainsey to pick him up and he instead participates in the double team on the other side. I don't know why you're double teaming the tackle like that unless you thought Anton was in trouble, which clearly he wasn't, because Anton, if you see here, swing this MFer to the ground right here, right? Yeah. So Walker just made the wrong decision there.
They have the running back chipping to the opposite side. So that makes me think, all right, cool. Well, then you're leaving Anton on an island at that point, which is not bad. It happens, but I'm just curious about. I don't know what happened there, and we may not ever know.
And the only person that knows what he saw in that play, if he remembers, is Walker, right? And something. The punchline's this, buddy. Like, and good point in bringing out the running back being on the opposite side there. For those that are listening on the pod and can't see the film, then the running back wasn't a factor because if he's on that side, the play call is to give help to that side, and rightly so, right? You got Cole Van Landen on that side. He's the younger player, air quotes. He's the one that needs the help.
Right.
That being said, at some point, something made Walker Little decide to go outside instead of inside, and that's what caused that. But I say all of the above to set this up. Whether it's Walker Little, Colette Van Landen, Wyatt Milam, your mama. I don't care. Whoever's playing that guard position isn't going to be on an island as often, right? Because in the Broncos game, they were keying and scheming to the edges. You don't need to do that as much here. At least this is what our evidence, or your evidence, I should say, from what you've seen on film has told us, right? So I would suspect maybe some more boots from Trevor potentially. Stuff like that. Okay. Yeah.
No, I got you. No, and it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop at just the passing game. Like we know what this is. Like the run offense is got to be a conversation. Even if we established on Wednesday's Duval Dive that some of the run game has to be just gumption and want to establish the run. You got to keep pushing it, keep trying, even if it's not being successful, just to keep this defense playing you honest. But also, we got to have a conversation. How do you ignite the run game right now? Like for this Jacksonville Jaguars offense, because as it stands, it is still problematic, at least. Like they are nearly at the bottom of the league in very many categories over the last 4 weeks. Like they got to figure it out, whether it's going to be 3 tight end sets, 6 offensive linemen to balance the playing field, more runs and pass friendly sets, maybe 4 receiver sets. Like again, there's so many options here, but eventually the rubber's going to hit the road, and they got to figure out a way to establish the run game, even when teams are trying to stop you, because that's what playoff football looks like.
I think the bigger issue, and these are great numbers, shouts as always to Dan Griffiths, friend of the show, but I'm not saying there isn't room for concern. And you and I have stood in different places about, it's not a problem, it is a problem, whatever. I think there's some there. I think we're in 2 different mindsets. I think there's too many negative plays allowed on running downs, on running attempts, rather than just it being a bad run. So when it's good, it's real good. When it's bad, it really sucks. So it's
right, so you're just saying finding ways to fall forward and get up efficient running 3 yards, 2 yards, even if it's not, just don't lose yards, basically.
Well, I mean, think about it. When you're running horizontally, there's a lot more backfield play, and mistakes are far more damaging when that happens. I think kind of that element stacking up a bit.
I got you. Like, but that was my big thing. It was like giving Travis Etienne 25 plus touches was my thought process. Make Etienne great again. We've talked about this for literal years. That's the goal of this Jacksonville Jaguars offense, is to continue feeding that beast. So like I felt like it needed to be a grind out, like a sort of a grinded out, uh give him at least 15 first half touches. And that's both in the passing game and the run game kind of week. Because on a down by down basis, the Colts, they've been reasonably strong in stopping the run as a whole. Like that's a big takeaway from my film review, both over the last well, I say over the last, well, over much of this year, but more importantly, since the bye week,
Right.
since that Daniel Jones injury. But then they generally like seem to give up a lot of yards in the first half, which is weird. It's the opposite of most defenses. They normally get tired in the second half and like struggle. No, the Colts give up more of their rushing yards in the first half in nearly every game since the bye week, and then they hunker down at halftime. And teams more have generally seem to have more success in the passing game with their linebackers maybe more fatigued. That's my guess. It's just a theory of mine. I'm wondering if that's what it is. They're just getting these guys tired out in the first half, and then it's like, all right, cool, bums away. And the check downs and to the tight ends and to the running backs, because that's what the 49ers did. That's
Yeah.
what Houston did, and that's what KC did against Indy.
Well, and I wonder how much of that, and you tell me, defensive mind. I wonder what element of that is trying to keep games from getting out of hand with, a guy you just got. No disrespect to Old Man Rivers, of course, but this is a dude you got off of a couch essentially to start for your team. Keeping the game close is a factor, so maybe they're prioritizing not giving up deep shots in that earlier part of the game to keep it from getting out of hand and giving JT
So then,
and Rivers.
so then other teams are then countering by just running the ball because you're giving me light boxes. That's kind of what your thought process is, right?
Exactly right.
That's interesting, and that's fair. It's just interesting how it's been working out, because I've seen this in enough of these games. That like, all right, cool. Seems like it's a weird coincidence, but nevertheless, they got to attack the middle. Like that's what it comes down to. If you get to those second half scenarios where their linebackers are going to struggle in coverage, they've been highly susceptible to explosives in the running game. In the passing game by the running backs. And also to covering the tight ends in the middle of the field in those checkdowns. So I don't got to tell you about it, because I can easily just show you. Like, wait, the first thing, let me take this off the screen. Like you got, again, CMC in the middle of the field. That was obviously the most recent game, and he's obviously been a pass catching merchant this season. With I think he might, if he's not over 1,000 yards, he's close to 1,000 yards in the air. But between him and Kittle this past week, it was just a clinic. It truly was. Like, especially in the second half of that game, if it's a check down, 9 yards, 8 yards, over and over and over. Like, that's, to me, if someone shows you the blueprint of how a team's going to struggle against covering your offense, you do that and you make them beat you. And if they've shown you they haven't adjusted and haven't gotten better, then they're going to lose 2 weeks in a row against teams doing the exact same dang thing. So that's where my thought process comes in. It's like, dude, Travis Etienne, 15 total touches. I don't care if it's rushing the ball. I don't care if it's running the ball. Get the ball into your running back's hands, and maybe even get, Brenton Strange, Hunter Long, Johnny Munt, those guys involved, because that's going to make it very easy for the Jacksonville Jaguars just to march down the field.
I'll even add this, Travis. This also tells me how much confidence they lack with Sauce Gardner's gone in the coverage side of the game too. If you're sitting back that far and you're that afraid of getting beat deep, you're used to having a dude like Sauce take their top their top deep threat off the board every down, right?
Yeah.
And without Sauce, they don't have that. And even with George Kittle and a weaker receiver core, air quotes, relatively weaker receiver core, they're still worried about getting beat. To me, that's telling. They were more worried about Christian McCaffrey than they were George Kittle, or they were more worried about George Kittle, I should say, than McCaffrey, because they're sitting back. Just don't kill us, God. And I'll say this, and I don't say this disrespectfully for the Jags. If they do the same thing, it wouldn't be very strange. I can argue that Brenton and Travis are a less prolific or less proven duo, perhaps, than McCaffrey and Kittle, but are still representative of the same threat. What makes the Jags even more dangerous? They're more explosive on the outside, too.
That's fair. More explosive, maybe not, but better on the outside. Different.
Compared to the Niners receivers, really?
They're different. I don't know. Well,
Fair.
I don't know. It's just they're
You
different
see where I'm
styles of
getting.
receivers.
You
But
see
I
what
know
I'm
where you're landing though. For sure. And you know the 49ers much more intimately than I do. You are a 49ers fan. I am obviously a supporter of the Jacksonville Jaguars. So that's going to change things just a little bit. So I get
That's
it.
still a
So
great
in
shirt. I
that
don't
way.
care.
Oh yeah. December in Duval. Let's go.
December in Duval. I missed that. That's awesome.
That's where they do DTWD shop.
Yeah, we get the
Those
plug.
guys are always putting out great content. I'll even give them free advertising. There you go, bros. But no, and I know we have a boatload of comments, and we are going to let you guys get your takes, and we are going to talk about that in a second. We just want to make sure we get to. Well, obviously, you're here for the game preview, so let's talk about the game. Philip Rivers, old man Rivers, uh, Uncle Phil, he still got it. Like that's yeah. What's your largest concern with Uncle Phil? All right, let's talk about
This
it.
dude calls him Uncle Phil. I love it.
You know, I can't be the only one that calls Philip Rivers Uncle Phil. Like, no, that's it. But no, he was 23 of 35 passing for 277 yards and 2 touchdowns. And he had a late interception against the 49ers. This is his most recent game. Obviously, he
Mhm.
came in late in the process after the quarterback got injured. Daniel Jones got injured against the Jaguars. So you all know how this worked because it happened against Jacksonville. They put up 27 points in a game that was 24-17 at the halftime. For anybody who didn't watch that, this wasn't a garbage stat line for Philip Rivers. It truly wasn't. Their defense just gave up 48 dang points to San Francisco. That's where they kind of it just got away from them. But offensively, it was honestly a pretty sharp game from Uncle Phil. Like his sole mistake was that fourth quarter interception, and they were down 21 points with
Which the
4
Niners
minutes
cashed
left in
in
the
to blow it
game.
open. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. Well, no, it was they were down 21 points, and there was 4 minutes left in the game. Like at that point, the game's basically over. Like he was
That's
just
fair.
trying to make something happen.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but he had a 2.48 average second time to 2.48 seconds time to throw on average in that game. Now, you know why that number is important because y'all heard me talk about it every week on BigCatCountry.com and on this podcast. That is the type of quarterback that this defense has religiously struggled with. Now, again, I ain't got to tell you. I can show you. If you didn't watch the game, these are just some of his plays that took over 2.5 seconds that were in the pocket. And I want to be real honest of my assessment of his play. Folks talk about his age all they want, but his play against San Francisco was solid, like a savvy NFL veteran quarterback play. Like he lulled them to sleep over and over and over, completing like 7, 8, 9 yard checkdowns, and then he would hit them in the middle or in the field, or hit them over the top after they crept it up, like that big touchdown play to Alec Pierce. Uh, he killed their defense on quick throws against the blitz. Like he had an average time to throw on blitzes of 2.1 seconds. Like he was getting it out. Again, Uncle Phil is a prototypical veteran quarterback, even off the couch. He has the mind for it, even if he doesn't have the arm. Like you look at these
Correct.
throws, they're lofting, they are
They're a little wobbly.
hanging up there. Yeah, they're a little wobbly, but he's getting it done. Like I want to be honest and say what that is. Like, but he was 11 of 20 for 141 yards and a touchdown on plays that took over 2.5 seconds. So basically, when he wasn't immediately checking it down, he was actually having reasonable success in the passing game. So it felt like watching the Jaguars game against the Raiders when I told you guys like Geno Smith just don't have the arm strength, but he knew where the ball should go. That's I won't say a fear of mine, but it's definitely a concern, a mild concern. Like, oh, this is a guy who knows where the ball should go. And for Jacksonville, normally it's the guys who want to hold the ball and be athletic and kind of run around and do all these things that give them problems. This ain't that guy, if that makes sense.
It's Joe Flacco for the Browns that beat the Jags, I think it was a couple seasons ago. It's that, right? It's interestingly Joe Flacco for the Colts that made those games close, right? Like that's the whole thing there, man. No, I'm with
on one hand, Rivers took a lot of what the 49ers gave him over and over and over because they played a lot of zone and they didn't have the personnel to really man up with the Colts consistently. But to be clear, you just saw it on the film, like those throws weren't pretty. Many of them, they were late in the throw. They had the receivers waiting on them a little bit. They were hanging in the air a little longer, allowing the DB to close in on them. But overall, he's a limited veteran NFL quarterback who's missing the arm strength, honestly. But he's definitely seen the field well, and he knows where the ball should go. So, like I said, like that Raiders game, like he's Geno Smith with a slightly faster releasing, like passing the ball. Probably a similar arm strength and whatever, and 10 kids. Basically, yeah, he's Geno Smith in that way, if that makes sense. He's white Geno. That's it.
white. That's
Hey, man,
you know that's how he kept his arm strong was holding babies, right? That's that.
brother, I don't do quarterback comparisons by race. No, I don't care. White, black, whatever. You are who you are. Josh Allen is AR-15 with
Oh,
better accuracy. Like that's it.
it wasn't the racial element that got me thinking. You struck me with how accurate White Gino is. I'm with it.
Yeah.
I no,
And the
yeah,
Jaguars were in a 1-point game against that same Geno Smith. So I'm not crazy enough to just
correct.
believe that this has got to be a boat race situation. I'm just calling. We'll see how it lands, and it's going to come down to all the individual matchups, like every NFL game does, man. But let's keep it moving, man. Like we got
We
Jonathan
can
Taylor.
give these commenters a minute, dude. Like,
Go ahead, get him in.
first of all, props to Radius, was in early as he always does over there across the pond in England. I regret staying up till 4 a.m. watching Chiefs Broncos, but the Duval dive is perking up a sleepy afternoon. That again, a great compliment to get from one of our diehards. Thank you, Radius, of course. If you can give me a 10 seconds or less response to who do we have left available in that corner room? Brown, Jones, Newsome? Like what's going on there with Lewis?
I mean, got Christian Broswell. I mean, that's the additional. Like we've seen him play in 3 games this season, I believe. What significant snaps in 3 games this season on defense, and he's actually played reasonably well in most of them. I haven't seen him be picked on as far as that's concerned. So you have a 4th guy. They just signed a 5th one who gives you a little bit of special teams chops. We don't know what we have there. We just haven't seen him. But overall, it obviously is going to be the fella they picked up off waivers. That's who Radius is mentioning. But overall, your top end is going to be stretched because again, this is the same defense that obviously already put Travis Hunter on IR, limiting their cornerback room, who already traded away Tyson Campbell early in the season and trying to figure out what exactly they have at that top end part of that room, specifically at the outside cornerback position. And they had a major strength in both slot corners because they love playing nickel. They love playing dime for that exact reason, because they can shut down the middle of the field with those 2 slot corners and then have Devin Lloyd right in the middle. It just puts that box across the middle of the field that Anthony Campanelli seems to love. And now you're going to lose one part of that, and you got to figure out how you're going to counter. So whether that's going to be more three safety sets for the Jaguars, or like maybe again what they did early in the season with Antonio Johnson, Dewey, and Eric Murray. Now that those guys are fully healthy, you have options there.
Even Ray Lane might even make some snaps there at that rate.
Yeah. So they have options. It's not like woe is me and the season's done because they lost a vocal veteran team captain, great cornerback, but they do have another very capable option. As I said on Christmas Duval dive talking about the injury, Jarian Jones is good. He has played very well, especially as a slot corner. And I think that it's not a fire sale or woe is me situation. It's just saying they're going to have to make a few counters and find a way to continue being unique in how they're going to deploy these guys back there. That's all.
Remember, Jarian Jones is a grown-ass man that jumped over another grown-ass man, charging him randomly as he was going out of bounds in that Denver game. I'm just saying.
After being jumped over by another grown ass man, which is funny.
It's
inception. It's inception of jumping. It's like Russian dolls.
Exactly. It was straight like I don't want to say revenge, but like it balanced out. He got jumped over by a running back, then he jumped over a running back. It's a whole thing. Shouts, by the way, to RJ Harvey.
It closed the loop. It closed the loop of this. I like that. That's it.
I think blinding Grant has a great point. Another us versus us game. As long as we don't do anything to beat ourselves, penalties, we should be good. But lately, Liam has his team dialed in, so not too worried. Travis, I heard a wise man named Travis repeatedly remind me that the Bucs started out shaky in the penalty side of the score, the box score, and now the Jags have done significantly less. What was it? 2 penalties against the Broncos. Continuing to do that is a key element. I think Grad's right. You're saying no.
They had 6 to 7 penalties and they had 2 accepted.
That's why. Oh, okay.
No. That's what it is. That's the thing that gets people, because someone argued with me that the refs were cheating the Jaguars because they only had like 2 penalties, and I'm like, brother, they had 7 flags. Yeah. They had multiple that were negated because it was 2 penalties at the same time, or the Broncos like declined 4 different penalties. Let's be clear about what happened. The refs did not throw the flags, and the Jaguars didn't play it in an absolutely clean game. It was simply that the flags were thrown and they weren't accepted. That's
It's
not
still
a
clean
positive outcome.
but that's a great point you make. I'm with all of that. That's very
But to the commenter's point, well, I think it was I know it was rat. I just don't want to demean the man. It's called the man rat. But
blinding rat.
blinding rat, blinding rat. Shout out, nice name. I think you might be correct in Liam Cohen obviously having these guys locked in. I still got questions. I ain't gonna lie to you. And
see, you're part of the reason respect ain't coming, Travis.
I am not part of the reason respect ain't coming. Respect is earned. And that's where it comes down to, from me at least. I'm giving them the opening. Like, I think eventually we have to reach the point in the season where you just kind of believe that the coach who has shown you he's a good leader of these men is going to be the coach who's going to make sure that they're locked in and they're ready to go. And whether they are the hunters or whether they are being hunted. So that is this week for me. I want to be very clear. I'm generally not giving these guys like passes and just saying, hey, I believe this is going to happen because I believe this is a good coach. Nah, I've been like, I need to see it on the film. They haven't truly shown me that they're consistently going to be that front running team. And that's kind of what this week is. So to the commenter's point, this is this Jaguars team versus this Jaguars team week, but they also consistently shown us that they're not able to be trusted when, they're being hunted, even though that's kind of a dated narrative, it feels like, as of late. Mm-hmm. So I'm willing to trust that they don't come out flat after a huge win against the Broncos. Like, Denver cannot be their Super Bowl. The Super Bowl is their Super Bowl. But that's actually one of my biggest off the field X factors. He's not my on the field X factor, but my off the field X factor is Liam Cohen having these guys locked in, and whether on this wonky Christmas, week that's already just a little weird because of the Denver game and everything else. Like, I'm just curious about how they're going to show up.
And I had to address this too also from Blinding Rat. Do you think incorporating a few more designed quarterback runs into our rushing game is a potential option to jumpstart the run game to make it a bit unpredictable? No. Let me tell you what I want to see. I want to see boots that turn into undesigned runs that scare the bejesus out of the Colts and make the difference. I want Trevor to cook. That's how you accomplish what you're doing there, not calling quarterback runs. I'm not going to hate them, but that's how I would rely on it. What do you got, Travis?
So Blinding Rat need to stay out of my computer. Like, Blinding Rat is obviously hacked me or something, because that's my second X factor. That's my on the field X factor. And I didn't really want to get into the X factors right now before we got our fourth key to the game. But you know what? Let's just talk about it. All right, so Trevor using his legs, that's what opened up the Denver game. And so we'll talk about JT's revival in a second. Because Blinding Rat talked about it, so we're gonna just talk about it now.
You said game. I got excited. My bad.
No. It's fine. It's just funny because Trevor's using his legs is what opened the game against Denver, and he's done it for multiple games this season. Honestly, it's just always a question of, will Trevor know when it's the right time to take those free yards, or when he'll attack those man-on-man opportunities, like when it's a passing down that he has the option to run the ball, but he doesn't have to. Like, I don't think it's going to be very unexpected because it's shown up on film so much as of late this season, both against the Chiefs, he tried to do it against the Seahawks. It didn't work. That was the negative side of that coin. Right. And he obviously did it against the Broncos a few times. So it's like, it's not going to be unexpected. These guys are absolutely looking at this film because that's what kept the Jaguars on the field on multiple third downs. So you can't then say, well, it's going to be an unexpected thing. No, they know. They know. Trust me. But that's going to be the week by week question for me. It's like, sometimes it works, like against KC. Other times it's better to throw the ball away and play field position, like against Seattle and the Rams, when he would take all those sacks on early downs. Like, making plays with his legs is the good part of that side of that coin, but when it don't work and you're behind the down distance and you can't pick up those pick up those series now, that's the negative side. So Waffle House Willie's legs can be both a gift and a curse occasionally, and we're just hoping that it's going to be a gift this week, if that makes sense.
And of course, Robbie in the comments digging my hair. Hey, first of all, Robbie, let me be clear. It's because I have a tie on today. I was at the coach's presser for the Pop-Tarts Bowl, so I'm not going to wear a backwards cap with the tie. That's just awkward. Also notice the green tie for the student of the game action there. There's that. But I'll say this much. I think Trevor running is something that's becoming predictable. I agree with you on that, Travis. So I think the first run you showed in your show Don't Tell was a boot that turned into a run. And that's
Right.
the kind of play I'm looking for. So
That's
yeah,
the one that's neat. That's the one that's needed and necessary because it gives them the option to just pick up 3 yards, 5 yards. It's still a positive run play, and at the end of the day, it keeps the chains moving or it keeps them on schedule. So, like, I'm generally with you.
Sunstain comes in, spam jet sweep like it's Madden.
Like it's Madden. We haven't done that since De'Ami Brown's fumble, which was very interesting. That was his late game fumble. Wasn't that against the Colts? I'm trying to remember what game that was. I thought that was against the Colts.
It's been so long since De'Ami Brown's played, but to your point, all the more reason to put it back into the playbook now, right?
So, speaking of the run game, now we can finally wrap this thing up with. Obviously, you can't let Jonathan Taylor Thomas have a revival. JT, Jonathan Taylor, Colts running back. I like to call the man Jonathan Taylor Thomas. Y'all know what this is. We like to have fun here. But like the 49ers last week, you got to limit Jonathan Taylor in the run game to even begin the conversation of winning the game. Now, speaking of the Jaguars run defense, you saw a few creases in the run against the Broncos. I mean, we want to call a spade and say that. And it wasn't even necessarily always RJ Harvey. It was both backs running out of those shotgun sets. So you had the early one that Eric Murray saved what looked like it might have been a touchdown, and he yanked the running back like upside down. And then you have the RJ Harvey touchdown where they missed multiple tackles. You have the quarterback runs, which is not much of a threat this week with old man Rivers. But yeah, they obviously can't miss tackles and things like that because this is the same type of back who will break tackles and have those explosives. So that's the big thing for me is you can't let Jonathan Taylor get going. We've known that every time we played the Colts, we played them a few weeks ago. That is what it is. But to benefit the Jaguars, this Colts running game is not the same with Daniel Jones missing. It's just not. It's not even close because they've lost the dual threat ability of the quarterback position, and much of their run game was dictated by their shotgun ability. Radius says Rivers get tackled by the paint on the field. Lord, y'all wrong. Y'all messed up, man. Leave that old man alone.
He's got a family to think about, y'all. Come on.
Yeah.
Actually, in fairness, premiums. Rivers does talk the right kind of trash to where fans should be able to do that too. That's fair.
That's actually fair. He does talk a lot of trash. But most uncles that play flag football talk trash too. So I understand. He's at that age. With the switch from a more athletic quarterback like Daniel Jones to a statue like Rivers, who's obviously much slower, more teams are just kind of crowded the box on the early downs and forced the Colts to abandon their under center run game for 3 of the past 4 weeks. Like, I don't know how closely folks watch this. They are the Colts. They're not the Jaguars. They aren't the team we watch like religiously.
Right.
For the past 4 games, the Colts have averaged just 5 under rush center attempts. They've been almost exclusively from shotgun. So like they're nearly all of their run game that's not on 1st and 10. It's just shotgun. And even last week against San Francisco, all 4 of their under center attempts came on 1st and 10, and they still only averaged 1.5 yards a carry. Even Troy Aikman was laughing at Pop says Social Aki. Lord, I'm sorry, man. They making fun of this man. Let that man, because I thought Rivers did well, bro. I legitimately did. Again, he don't have the arm strength, but I thought he did what he was supposed to do and like actually got them moving up and down the field, and it was a really efficient game.
For a dude that came back up off the couch having however many kids on his knee, and having to, do Christmas remote with his family, he did do a good job. I agree.
He's showing his wife he still got it and his kids.
And listen, shouts to Social Alki. He mentions that Jacoby Myers got a jet sweep against the Broncos with no gain. So I think that's worth mention as well.
Dang it, I must have missed that one or forgot that one. I should have data dumped it. But the Colts. So this is the wildest stat that I saw, and I say I saw. I researched it. I got it myself. I looked at all the games across the season and kind of figured this out. The Colts dropped from averaging 7 yards a carry, 7.0 yards a carry in the first 10 games of the season when rushing under center to 3.1 yards per carry since the bye week in the last 5 games. Do you understand how significant of a drop off that is to lose 3.9 yards a carry per production from your primary running back? Like, let me put it this way. At least he can read a defense. Yeah, okay. No, all right, let me put it this way. Josh Jacobs, Green Bay Packers starting running back, averages 4.0 yards per carry on the season.
Mm-hmm.
Jonathan Taylor's drop-off when rushing from under center is the equivalent of losing an entire Josh Jacobs for the season. Like his entire production. Like I legitimately didn't know it was that bad in Indianapolis since the JT injury. But no,
that's absolutely nuts.
So I posted this on the socials last night, and that's why folks, if you see me post some random stat on the socials, just know it's going to be said in this podcast. Sure. Because that's why I'm researching numbers and looking into it. Jonathan Taylor in the first 10 weeks of the season with Daniel Jones averaged 19 carries for 114 yards and a touchdown and a half game. In the last 5 games, including the 2 games that Daniel Jones played with his fibia injury, but he really wasn't running the ball, they averaged 1 more carry. What is that? 40 less yards a game and a half of a touchdown, not even a half of a touchdown per game. Like it's a seriously significant drop off. Teams are loading the box against them early downs and forcing the passing game to beat them. And then the passing and then the shotgun is also bad. It's just not as bad as under center. Like they still are averaging a 1.7 yards per carry less, even in the shotgun runs, and they're running them way more often there. So they have some structural issues right now in their run game, and that's helpful for the Jacksonville Jaguars' #1 ranked run defense.
Sunstain coming off the top rope with the point I've been making since September. It's almost like they were beating up on some cupcakes.
Well, no. Now, so this is the fun part that I want to be honest and be clear, because again, as much as I don't like the Indianapolis Colts, because I grew up a Jacksonville Jaguars fan, and I grew up not liking the Colts and the Titans, I'm going to be honest and say that. I will still be honest in my assessment and my evaluation of what's happening here. And I don't think it was actually just the cupcakes. I actually looked into the DVOA of all the defenses they played in the first 10 games and looked in the DVOA of the teams they played in the last 5. I looked in the EPA per run against the teams they played in the first 10 and versus the last, and it was like a 3 slot difference. It was an average of 12 in the last 5 games, and it was an average of 16 in the first 10. Like it truly was not a significant difference if you're talking just run game. It truly did come down to that Daniel Jones injury changed the structure of how they want to run the ball, because all of a sudden you don't have teams playing the running back when you're running out of shotgun and trying to pretend like you're going to fake the run and run it with Phillip Rivers. Nobody's believing that, bro. So like they're just crashing down on Jonathan Taylor and saying, all right, cool. You're going to run the ball, beat me, old man. Like they show me that you can beat me to the edge, old man. And I can just react and just kind of hawk him down because he's not as fast. So unfortunately, they just haven't been able to counter because they don't have an athletic option who also knew their offense this quickly. That's what it came down to. I promise it wasn't just the opponents.
I was about to say more than one thing could be true, but I'm with you. I think Daniel Jones was the bigger factor, but I do want to point out that the Colts were eating on.
They were eating. They thought they were a Super Bowl contender, and they probably were closer to just being a very solid, foundationally sound team. But none of this. None of this means they can't get hot on Sunday. They can't have a good game in the run game on Sunday. It just means that they're struggling currently to figure out what their run game is, their whole operation with this style of quarterback. And that's good news for Jacksonville's #1 ranked defense. They just need to make sure this ain't the week that the Colts get it figured out.
Yeah. So, and as we jump to these final stats, we're creeping ever closer to my X factor.
Let's go.
Let me pull those stats up for you there so we could walk through these, man. You mentioned
these are the stats for just the past 3 weeks. I wanted to make an apples to apples comparison just for the listeners, because I know y'all always hate when I give season long stats. I'm like, all right, cool. Let's just talk about the last 3 weeks when they've had trouble with quarterback, who this active Jacksonville Jaguars team is and who this active Indianapolis Colts team is. You got it.
Yeah, no, you're all over it. And you call out the run defense. I think that's a great point. You mentioned the Jags pass offense being 4th and then 21st versus, old man Rivers there. Here's where I'm most worried, right? We see the 24th in sacks in the past 3 weeks, and granted, they're top in turnovers. I know that's a factor too. 9th overall in giveaways, as far as fewer giveaways, right? And then of course them being explosive with points scored. We talked about that. Last week I made the comment, and you loved every second of it and made me feel very special about myself, that the longer Bo Nix is in the pocket, the less dangerous he gets. Flip that with Phillip Rivers, okay? Matter of fact, where I get very worried is teams, to your point, as you've mentioned in the past, teams that have lower times to throw against the Jags tend to be the more successful ones. And if you have a stationary quarterback, you're going to design quicker throws anyway, and the Jags need to. What I'm being told is this isn't going to be like the Broncos and Jets in my mind. It's going to be a situation where they're going to try to game plan the ball to come out faster. Whether they do that or not is another question. But I'll put it this way: we have made. And by we, I mean me, I'll be honest. Like, I say it as a joke, but I end up turning it into a positive. But, like, pressures, man, is a thing here. Okay? You were about to hit the same damn thing, weren't you? That's funny. But pressures, man, is a thing here. They need to come out quick, take both Trayvon Walker and Josh Hines Allen off the board, and let the potential Hall of Fame Phillip Rivers throw quick passes out to who they need to. Will that happen? I don't know, but that's my X factor is the Jags' ability to do that.
That's going to be an interesting one, though, because like looking at those stats, like for just the past 3 weeks, again, looking at who these teams actively are, in my personal opinion, like Jacksonville's 12th ranked defense is likely going to have success against the Colts' 29th ranked offensive in the run game. Mm-hmm. The Colts' run defense, which was 7th, is going to likely, the Colts' run defense, they're 7th in the league, if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, they're 7th in the league, and they're facing Jacksonville's 24th ranked run offense. Like, so it feels like both defenses are going to probably have some success trying to limit these guys on the ground for much of the game. Mm-hmm. It just feels like Jacksonville's 4th ranked passing offense is going to probably end up carrying the day over the 30th ranked passing defense for the Colts. That's not looking at the film. That's not looking at who's in and who's out, looking at the matchups. That's just the pure stats. That's all I'm saying. Because again, I know things can change when these guys back or Jacksonville ends up missing guys. But the Jaguars are an opportunistic defense. Then they're going up against an offense that's averaged 2 turnovers a game for the past 3 weeks. That's another big one. And I think that's, I guess Jacksonville's offense, they protect the ball pretty well. And they're up against a Colts defense that also hasn't forced many turnovers. So, like, overall, that's probably the biggest takeaways I kind of got from this bad boy. Surprise, surprise. The guys over at NFL.com. Clean sweep. All 10 analysts state that the Jaguars are going to win this game with varying score differentials. How you feel about that, sir?
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of games in the 50s. I'm not saying that that's bad. I think it's going to be a lower 48 affair. I feel like both sides are going to try to run the ball or throw the pass quickly. And if you remember the Duval Devout, you're hoping the Colts failed to do it. And with that in mind, time's going to come off the clock more. I think there'll be fewer opportunities to score because people are holding on to it. If the Jags get a turnover, which it seems to me like some of these guys are certainly predicting that Daniel Jeremiah, Bucky Brooks both look like, I would even say MJD perhaps, are looking like they're predicting there's a takeaway in there by the Jags, not necessarily the nuttiest thing in the world. I don't think that happens. I don't think the Jags get a takeaway in this game, mostly because I think they're going to kind of play to keep themselves in the game early rather than try to blow it open and do anything risky. I could be completely wrong, and if I am, the Jags will score in the 50s. But for me, listen, I'll drop it out there. I think this is a very comfortable 28-14 victory for the Jags. And that's right. I said Cam Little stays on the bench, doesn't put up any points in this one beyond extra points, because when they get in the red zone, they will be just as prolific in my mind as they were against the Broncos.
14-point win. All right. Oof. I'm with you, and I hope it happens. I'm weird about this one because I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I've been asked no less than 10 times this week what my prediction was for this game since Tuesday. I went to an event early this week. That's the reason. It was a football event, so you're going to get asked questions about football. And with every person that I spoke to, I kind of talked to them from a position of hurt. I want to be honest. PTSD. The Jaguars PTSD thing is real. And I thought that the most Jaguars thing that this team could do this week would be to ruin a week following a Broncos victory with a loss to the Colts. That was just playing devil's advocate.
And fall into the Lucas Oil Stadium juju, by the way. I completely see where you're coming from.
That's kind of, that's kind of where I'm like, dude, I mean, it's not to say I expect it to happen. I just want to be honest about what the Jaguars have struggled against quarterbacks who play with getting the ball out in 2.5 seconds. We've talked about that. Liam Cohen's talked about that in multiple press conferences this year. I mean, and we can just think back at how close the Cardinals game was, how close the Raiders game ended up being.
Yes.
Like, Jacksonville rarely plays in Indy. Like, I have some serious concerns for the health of the Jacksonville interior offensive line and whether or not DeForest Buckner and Grover Cleveland and those guys are truly going to be able to take over the game or take over the game plans for what Jacksonville wants to do. Like, these are all reasons that I'm just like, oh, checkbox, checkbox, checkbox. These are all positive, possible negatives, not necessarily negatives, but possibles. But as an official prediction, I got to believe that Liam Cohen's going to have these guys locked in. I mean, it's the Colts team, they're on the verge of playoff elimination. Like, they got to win out, and the Texans have to lose out for them to even have a chance to make the playoffs as it currently stands. They're on a short week. The Colts skipped the day of practice for the holidays because and the Jazz got some quality work in. Basically, one team got one more day of game planning, 2 more days on the practice field with coaches and asking questions in the classroom, on-field participation, all that stuff. Like, I kind of think Indy's passing offense does still give the Jacksonville Jaguars defense trouble, though. I want to be real about that.
Yeah.
I can't let that piece go. I'm going Jaguars 33, Colts 26. I think it's a higher scoring game in that way, like just under 60 points.
You're 60 points. Okay, crazy. Yeah. All right. I like it.
I think it's going to be I think this is one of those things until the Jaguars shows me that they're going to beat a quarterback who gets the ball out quickly, and they haven't this year. Like, again, Geno Smith had a reasonably solid game. I mean, Montez Brown interception was because Geno Smith had no arm strength to get that ball out to the hashes. And even they still got down to the 1-yard line and had an opportunity to win that game with very little time. Well, I'm sorry, it was the last play of the game, basically, the Hamilton's knockdown. Yep. So I'm just saying, from that perspective, I'm not crazy enough I have long memory. I'm remembering what it was. I think it's going to be a closer game in that way, but I think the Jaguars still pull it out.
3127 says Radius too. He shares in your paranoia. Last thing I will mention here, I think another reason the Jags may have opted to practice is because of all the injuries and more depth needing to get involved. That could be a factor there too.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that. Yeah, they know other guys who may need to get back to base, we'll call it. And also other guys who may just need to understand the full scope of the game plan, like a Wyatt Milam playing center. That's a good call. And as a last thing, just we're getting close to that hour mark, and I wanted to at least just say it out loud. I saw entering this week that Jacksonville had a 6-3 record against playoff teams or those still in the hunt. And that's the second most wins against that group of the NFL, with wins over the Broncos, Texans, Chargers, 49ers, Panthers, and Colts. Their only losses were the 3 losses to those groups was the Rams, Seahawks, and Texans. I ain't trying to be a homer in any way, but that sounds like the resume of a dominant team. I'm not trying to say they are
6.25 or 6.75 versus 1.25. No, I'm kidding.
I'm just saying that sounds like a dominant resume. Like, I mean, the top teams, they consistently win games they're supposed to, but the divisional games can always be a little lighter. They can be a little tighter. Especially on the road. Ain't no style points in the NFL. Like,
I know what'll curl your hair is when you look at the quarterbacks that are on the 6 versus the quarterbacks that are on the 3, and one of them is Davis freaking Mills.
That's actually fair. But
Davis Mills, Sam Darnold, and old man Stafford. Like, those are the quarterbacks you lost to that are playoff.
Old man Stafford balling though. Like,
I get you. Listen, he's an MVP, but like, he's still old as. Anyways, I want to curse.
But the goal for this week is to avoid the trap game. It's to avoid the trap of hearing their own names in the media. Avoid the trap of living too much into last week's victory instead of this one that's coming up. And with the AFC South hated rival with basically everything to play for. And they're facing off against them on the road and playing on a shortened holiday week with an awkward schedule. I just hope that they are ready to win this thing. And I don't care if they win it by 1 in triple. Well, I say triple overtime. In overtime, just win the game, secure the W, get that win for Duval, and let's keep this thing moving along.
All right. With that in mind, Travis D. Holmes, tell the world.
Yeah, man. Yeah. You can find me on covering my first and most importantly, if you're listening to the sound of my voice, please click that like button. Secondarily, please comment. We love you guys, and we love the fact that you guys love the comments in these socials. But I know about 40% of y'all listening to my voice right now are not subscribed to this Duval Dive YouTube channel. Hey man, click that button. Get the notifications. Come on. And comment in the thread. Click like. If you listen to us a sound on the audio side, please rate and review us. Also, it helps us out tremendously. And the only reason this thing is growing, I mean, we're at 900 subscribers now, which is crazy to me. We were at like 400 to start this season. That's wild. So this thing just keeps growing because you guys are liking, and this algorithm keeps pushing us forward. So we appreciate you guys. please continue to do that and keep it locked in here. BigCatCountry.com. We have all the write-ups covering all the different transactions we've talked about on today's show and more. And we'll have the post-game write-up there also. But Travis D. Holmes on all the socials, BigCatCountry.com. And please let them know where you can be found, sir.
Social Alky mentions it in the comments here. One Pro Bowler equals motivation enough for the Jags to be ticked off. Listen, if you wear teal, make your appeal. Vote for your people if you want them in the Pro Bowl. That's the only way you're going to make it happen. Of course, I'm Kyle Nash, the student of the game. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at the SOTG. Find me on Facebook as a student of the game. Check out my writings with the Black and Gold Banneret and the Night Shift podcast talking UCF football and basketball. Also, the Scouting Depot this week has my coverage of the Pop-Tarts and Citrus Bowls coming up here in Orlando, so make sure you check those out, as well as my work covering the Orlando Magic. I was on 1010XL with RJ Saunders talking some Magic over this Christmas break too, so you'll have all of that. I know you hear Travis there a lot talking Jags. I got to talk Jags a little bit with RJ Saunders as well there, so make sure you check all that out. All of that in line. Duval Divers, thank you again. You are constantly the gift that keeps on giving all year, not just like the Jelly of the Month club that Clark Griswold gets, but no, I mean like actual ball knowers here in these comments, in these chats. What makes it great, Travis, is in one block, they'll talk trash on Old Man Rivers, and then for the next block, they'll talk about how he is a future Hall of Famer and this, that. This is what makes this group great. Anyways, so for my personal champion, Travis D. Holmes, for all you Duval Divers and Duval Devout that keep this thing doing what it's doing, this is Kyle Nash, the student of the game. Until next time, everyone, class dismissed.